Are you making the most of your resources in Marvel Strike Force? Did you earn enough gold, training materials, power cores and T4s last month to stay ahead? Or do you feel like you're falling behind? If you're falling behind, then you need to build positively. And if you don't know what that is, then you need to join me in this video. Welcome, Commanders, to another episode of Build Positively. In this series, I track exactly what I've earned over the past month: gold, training materials, power cores, and T4s, to see where I'm at and what adjustments I need to make. With that info, I can build a strategy for the next month to maximize my progress while staying efficient. So let's dive in and build positively. All right, so as per usual, there is one cardinal rule I like to follow and to give you all. This is your game, it is your rules. So if you want to build Spider-Man, let's say, to level 105 and gear tier 19, that's yours. As long as you're having fun, that is what makes it worthwhile. But do have in the back of your mind that if you are also trying to keep up with the meta, that by building that character, that might mean that you cannot build another character. So what is building positively? Well, in a nutshell, it is growing our roster whilst staying within the constraints of what the game supplies us free to play. And to do this, we need to know the following things. We need to know our resource income. That is the very first thing we need to know. And secondly, we need to know what the character cadence or the character release schedule is looking like. And with that information, we can come up with a strategy of how we are going to build our characters for the month ahead. And some of you might ask, who is this advice for? Well, in all honesty, it can be for anyone. Now, I understand if you're just starting the game, this might be a little harder to do. And because I am an end game player, this is mostly taken from a mid to end game player's philosophy, but you can take this philosophy on as a new player and still do very well. All right, so let's start off by taking a look at our resource income. Okay, so let's have a little gold income recap. And in September, we bought in 291 million gold to the account, and that gave us on average to spend 9.7 million gold. October, a little bit less with more days in the month, but still around that 9 million gold per day to spend. November really started to crank up. We bought in 304 million gold, and that gave us 10 million gold a day to spend. And then in December, similarly, we bought in another 300 million gold, but because there was 31 days in December and not 30, that only gave us 9.692 million gold to spend per day. But how did January look? That was 2024. What's 2025 looking like? Well, here we go. This is the spreadsheet that I use to track my gold. And what I basically do normally is at reset, I will take either a screenshot if I am not near my computer, or if I am near my computer, I will go straight onto the spreadsheet and input the figures. Basically, you use the golden opportunity milestone to see what gold you've spent. So you can take that starting balance, whatever day you want to start this, you can go to the golden opportunity milestone when reset happens. When the golden opportunity reset happens, that is, which is for me 9 p.m. at the moment. In the UK will be 10 p.m. when the clocks change. Go in there, see how much you spent, and then put your finishing balance down, and you can get your total gold income for the day out of that there. And you will see that for January 2025, we had a total gold income of 301 million gold. That is the third month on the bounce that we have had 300 million gold coming into the account. It's pretty good. Now, I'm not the only content creator to do these sort of roundups, and I actually full credit to Rage Gaming. He was a free-to-play content creator that when I started playing the game, I was following. his advice. So go give the guy a follow. I'm going to put a link to his channel in the description down below. But here is his January 2025 gold update. So last year I tracked Rage, and I'm tracking him again this year just so that I've got something to put myself up against. And in January, he brought in 272 million gold to his account. So as you can see, there is a little bit of discrepancy there, but that can be just down to a lucky pull from a mega gold orb, which we've been getting from those alliance events recently, or just, you know, a lucky number of pulls from many gold orbs. That is all it comes down to at the end of the day. So when I started doing Build Positively, I wanted to track more than just the gold, so I decided I was going to track my training materials. And in December, we bought in 213,132,690 gold worth of training materials. This one is a bit harder to track, in all honesty. Now, this is the strategy that we've come up with overall. This is like the all-encompassing strategy. When we get a new character, we're going to level them over 5 days from level 1 to level 100. That is going to cost us 23 million gold in training materials. And so the total number of characters we could fully level in December was 9.1. Quite impressive, right? 9 characters. How did January look, though? Well, 207,606,890 gold worth of training materials came into our accounts in January, following the same 23,403,170 for the total gold to level a character from level 1 to 100. We could fully level 8.87, so roughly again those 9 characters. And T4s, this is another thing that I always find I was struggling with, so I thought again I would start tracking this and what came into my account from my T4 perspective. And here is January's balance. So similar process to the gold. We have our starting balance, and again I do this all at the reset at 9 PM UK time. So we put the starting balance in, what I've spent, finishing balance, and that'll give me my total T4 income. And as you can see, we bought in 4,128 T4s. So full transparency here, my alliance does the Spotlight 2 at the maximum difficulty each day, and we are getting between sort of 70 to 100% on that every single day of the week. Also, my alliance is in Platinum 4 for War. So we do have that. We're in like the top between 300 to 400 alliances within Marvel Strike Force for War, and that is also giving us a decent payout of T4s every 2 weeks. So what does those 4,100 T4s equate to? Well, it costs you 840 T4s if you were to fully T4 a character. Now, I know we do not do that. We normally, a lot of us skip the basics, in all honesty. But let's say we were T4ing the character in total. The total number of T4s characters that we could T4 in January was 4.91, so nearly 5 characters. And then another resource which is hard to come by and probably one of the best resources in the game is your power core income. So what did that look like in January? Well, again, full transparency here, I sit within the top 10 to 20 in my arena shard. So my power cores coming in are between 450 and 500 a day from arena. So this might vary quite a bit for you guys, but 20,275 power cores is what came in last month or January for me on my account. So now I know what resources I've got coming into my account. Let's take a look at the character releases. And here is the character release schedule for 2025. So you can see here that we have had all the Immortal X-Men, the Uncanny Avengers, and the Mighty Avengers. And we had Phoenix and Omega Red Phoenix Force. And we are now just going into the latest Liberty cycle with Peggy Carter, who has already came out, and Falcon Joaquin, who comes out tomorrow, the 13th of February. And this is just basically a very simple spreadsheet when they were released, days between the initial releases. So that's between the Power Core Orb release. I'll put my unlock date here for when I unlock the character. If I've used Power Cores to unlock said character, I'm going to put the number of Power Core Orbs it's taken me to unlock them. Next up is their free-to-play release event date, and then the days between the initial release and the free-to-play event, which is quite interesting. But more interesting for me is actually the days between the last free-to-play release. And the reason why that's interesting for me is because that is kind of telling us how many characters we're having to build within what sort of time scale for ourselves. So currently, as it stands for 2025, the average days between releases paid is 11.5 days, and the average days between releases free to play is 22.66. Now, I do have a bit of a theory here. Training materials and what we have coming into our accounts. My theory is that we are earning our training materials a month in advance. So if we look here, we had 207 million gold worth of training materials come into our account in January. And we've already seen this slide, 8.87 characters is what we could level in January. Now, this is for February. Now, if we have a look, I think that technically they've lumped Phoenix and Omega Red Phoenix Force into February. So we've got 2 characters here, Captain Sam, War Machine, Peggy, Falcon, and Patriot. So that's 7 characters. So we've got a 2 character sort of window there of training materials going forwards. But I do believe that also before the end of the month, we will see the Starjammers start to come out. So we've got Lalandra and possibly Groot and Rocket with your reworks as well. Now that we know about those, I've not put them onto this spreadsheet yet, but we know now that Groot and Rocket are part of it. So kind of leads me to think that our training materials come in a month in advance. Okay, so now that we have all that information, we can come up with our strategy. And I do love this picture here. Strategy, it requires thinking about it, it requires planning the strategy, and it requires managing your strategy. Now, we've just thought about our strategy because what we've done is we've got the data that we need to be able to think about that strategy. So let's take a look at the strategy that I have come up with. And I welcome you to BPG's showroom. And some of you might go, why are we in a car showroom? What significance has this to do with Marvel Strike Force? And if you've watched these before, feel free to skip ahead. But the reason why we are in a car showroom is because just like cars, when you drive them off the forecourt, they depreciate in value. Characters in Marvel Strike Force, once they are released, are also depreciating in value. So it's important that we build them as quickly as we possibly can. And so this is the strategy that I've come up with. Now, I know we have level 105 included, and next month I will have the level 105 sort of mixed into this as well. I work it on a 10-day cycle because we know from the character releases that that's roughly what we've got between new releases. So we're looking at leveling characters for the first 5 days when we unlock them to level 100, and then the next 5 days between that character release and a previous character and the new character release, we can work on either an old character or a reworked character, or if we don't have anything like that to work on, we can use our gold to buy materials from the gold store for the latest Dark Dimension. Makes sense, right? And we can see here that the total training material cost here, if we were to just spend this 6 million gold, is 53,403,000 gold. Now, our average days in the month is 30.42, so let's call it 30. So we've got 3 cycles of this. So that gives us a total of call it layman's terms, 160-ish million gold. Now, our gold income for January was 301 million gold. So we're way ahead there, no problems. Our training material income was 207 million gold. So again, we're way within this. So we know that this strategy, as long as we keep to it, will work. So we had some interesting news recently from Scopely, and that was the fact that war was going down to only 2 wars per week. And so that kind of changes the priority of what we want to build teams. Now, some of you might have already seen something like this. This is an Eisenhower's priority matrix, and I've done one here for Marvel Strike Force. And this is a way that some people look at task management, basically. But I've done this as team management, so very similar. So we have important, we have urgent, we have not urgent, we have not important, and then obviously we have not important but urgent, not important, and not urgent. So here, this is according to what Marvel Strike Force are trying to get you to do. Because with only 2 wars every week, war now becomes quite a not important but urgent game mode. And the reason for that is because you have less days to make your toys work, and so they need to work better. So the most urgent and important game modes are obviously Arena and Raids. They are every single day use. They give you a lot of good resources. Important game modes, but not urgent game modes, is Dark Dimensions and Legendary Events. They're the ones that take a little bit longer. And sometimes with the Legendary Events, you might not be ready for it the first time around, so you might have to wait for the second run of it. So that's why I've put them down as not urgent. War, we've just explained, 2 wars a week now going down to that. That makes it a little bit more urgent, but not as important a game mode as Arenas and Raids. And Crucible, according to what Marvel Strike Force are looking at, is actually a not urgent, not important game mode. However, I do think slightly differently because I like to play with my toys. I like to get the most use out of them. So for me, Crucible and War swap around. And why is that? Because I'm still getting my 3 Crucibles a week. So that becomes a not important game mode, but a more urgent game mode for building characters. And so this is what I planned on doing for January. 192 million gold worth of training materials there. That was doable because we had more than that come into our account. So this would have been fully doable. But what did I do? This was what I ended up doing. So I did my Uncanny Avengers, finished them off. I then went and did the Absolute A-Force and Hercules when he came out. And then we didn't have this announcement yet, but I thought I'm going to start working on the Immortal X-Men just so that I've got them sorted for Cosmic Crucible. And so this is quite a fitting saying here. The more you look back, the more you miss what's in front of you. And basically what that's saying is, for Marvel Strike Force terminology, is that the more you're building older teams, the more you're going to miss out the newer teams and the current teams that are in the meta. So what does my future build strategy look like for February? Well, here we have what we are going to be doing for February. So you'll see here that we have prioritized, now that we've had that announcement from Scopely, we've prioritized doing the Immortal X-Men and the Phoenix Force. We're then going to work on the Mighty Avengers and Zombie Scarlet Witch. They're the next ones for me to do. And then it will be Liberty's turn. However, we have just had the announcement of the Starjammers. So it is very likely that the Starjammers will actually jump up the queue and push Liberty out, even if there are events that require Liberty to be used, possibly. I will have to pivot when I know what's going on there, but that is the joy of it. But for now, I'm going to get that finished, the Mighty Avengers, get my Scarlet Witch zombie finished, and then it'll be either work on Liberty or work on Starjammers, whichever one is out at that moment in time. So there you have it, Commanders. By tracking what I've earned and where my resources are going, I can fine-tune my strategy for the months ahead and make sure that I'm always progressing. Whether you're thriving or struggling, the key is staying aware and making smart decisions with what you have. Now I want to hear from you. How did your month go? Are you ahead of the curve, or do you need to adjust your strategy? why not drop a comment below and let's keep the conversation going. If you found this helpful, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next Build Positively breakdown. And as always, Commanders, stay positive.